The topic of project management has been around for decades, even centuries. However, whenever we start talking about project management, we need to go back and look at the concepts of project management so we know where to start, where we're going, and how we can take this and incorporate it into our business lives. One of the things that we certainly see when we go in and look at any job offerings these days is almost every job offering out there for business professionals states at some point that the project management will be part of some of the tasks that will be needed to be completed. However, project management is more than just an idea. It really is an organized set of people and processes and procedures. And all of this people, process, and procedure goes together to provide one stated objective that's delivered with high quality, that satisfies the customers, and that is also on time and on budget. To get started though, let's go back and look at a few projects that we all can agree have been major projects during the last century. Certainly landing a man on the moon, big project, stated objective. We knew what we wanted to do as a country. We went through and we said, how do we get a person from Earth to the moon, and how do we do it with a budget and in a time constraint? Another one, going back even further, really difficult to get a pyramid built unless you have an idea of the objective that you're trying to get to, the resources that you have available, and a time limit to get it done. Or more recently than that, how do you take and host a concert for 50,000 of your closest friends? All of these are examples of projects, and to get it all accomplished, there has to be an organized way of putting together the ideas, the people, the processes to meet the objective on time and on budget. And that's where we stand today. These are examples. However, in the last century, there have been a lot of things that have really happened to help turn this into more of a science than just an art. Examples here. With Frederick Taylor back in 1911 published the scientific principles of scientific management. The idea is that management can be part of a science. So we start driving towards this movement, as you can see through the Gantt chart being developed in 1917. All the way through here, we begin to start picking up speed and turning management more into a science through time. You see on this slide here that in 1969, we actually find the Project Management Institute is actually founded. And we have since that day continued to make real changes to project management as a science. However, where we really get to now is what makes a project a project. And the biggest point to this is how do we define it and make it a true project? So with that said, common features that we know from projects. Most of them have limited durations. They have defined outcomes. They're related to and connected to other activities, and usually they're just for one unique event. What this means though is that we need all of these things to be present if we're going to have a project, and that means that we need to have project management ideas and concepts to turn it from a project into a real outcome using project management. Let's take into consideration two different scenarios and see when you think that you would need a project. The first scenario, you have a house that needs to be finished in 8 months, you have a loan that's $270,000, and you have 4 friends that say that they can help. Scenario 2 is a bit different. You know you're building a house, however you can stay in your current house, so the time constraint is not there. You also have enough cash where you can do anything you want, so you don't have a financial constraint. Finally, you have an unlimited number of friends that say that they can help, so you don't have as much of a resource constraint. So from looking at these two scenarios, which do you think project management would probably benefit the most? I think it's scenario 1. One big point here is that we have a defined objective. This was in both scenario 1 and scenario 2. However, we want to build a house, and so we have a defined objective. So project management works well in that regard. Second, we know that we have some constraints. We have limited resources. We have limited time. We only have 8 months. We have limited money. We have $270,000. And you have 4 friends that can help. That means you have limited resources. So from this perspective, we have limited components. We have a stated objective. Project management would really help us more in scenario 1 because we would need to be able to manage our time, our resources, so that we could get into our house on budget and on time. So therefore, the main elements that we have here for project management: time, money, people, stated outcomes. We know what the customer wants. In this case, the customer was us. We were building our own house. And the quality is also there too, that it's stated with what the quality is going to be. Bottom line though, project managers must be able to come up with a process and then follow it so that they can reach this outcome on time and on budget. So, what makes project management so hard? From the looks of things so far, it says all we need to do, come up with a project, put it into place, and move forward. However, one thing that matters to us when we start looking at project management is we're looking at team management. We have different resources that we're trying to manage. At the same time, we have cost. Cost is always a big consideration. And when we're working with teams, the cost is included with it. So we get down to this idea, is it art or is it science? You know, Taylor did say it's more of a science. However, if you went and read Sun Tzu, he would say all of this stuff that we're talking about is also an art. Continue to add more of these ideas in here. Management style or quality. Add to it the integration of all the ideas or the resources and the risks. And what we have with project management is really trying to do all of the things that we have considered in business along the way, where we're managing people, we're managing cost, we're managing a major project, we're trying to get to a quality outcome, and we're trying to do it all on time and on budget. That brings us to 4 real principles of project management. The first of those is if you don't know where you're going, you probably won't get there. That's the whole idea of defining what the objective is of the project before we start out. The second one is if you're not planning, you are going to fail. Third, if you can find out what your problems are earlier, they're easier and cheaper to solve. There's a 110-100 rule that we often talk about in project management. It says that if I can find the problem early in the design phase, that it will probably only cost me $1 to fix the problem. If I don't find that problem until much later in the project, it's going to cost me $10. If I don't find that problem until after it is built, it may cost me $100. An example of this is we are looking at the design of a bathroom. And in the design of a bathroom, if we determine before we start the building process that the toilet is in the wrong place, it may only cost me $1 in the design phase to be able to get the architect to make a quick change and redo the plumbing to where it lines up with the correct location. If I wait until the plans are already drawn and printed a little bit later, I'm going to have to go back in and I'm going to have to reprint everything. That's going to cost me $10. Finally, if I wait until after the whole house is put together and we've framed it and I make this decision, it may cost me $100 because I have to go redo the plumbing or remove something. So that's the third idea. The fourth one is that people are the biggest and always going to be the hardest to control variable in every project. It's difficult to control people. It's difficult to get them to do what you want them to do. And in a project management constraint, oftentimes you're relying on them to do major parts of your project along the way. Next, any successful project manager knows all of these 4 principles that we've stated here, and they have a conceptual understanding of what project management process really is. That means that where we need to go next is we need to go back and decide that truly all business professionals need to effectively lead projects along the way. It's also time to look at some of the concepts that we've had to develop a plan for tackling the projects in the future.